Today we have with us Jinal Sangoi. Welcome to Baatein, Jinal. So Jinal Sangoi is an interdisciplinary artist and an educator. Her work addresses complex and cumulative intersection of gender, ecology, and culture in post-colonial societies. Jinal is a MFA graduate from California Institute of Arts. Currently, she is working with IIT Bombay, Council of Arts and Social Practice, founded Beej, and organizes drawing circles. So yeah, it's lovely to have you. Let's start, since it's already delayed. So let's start with the session. So starting with the session, how is lockdown going?
Yeah, the pandemic has been a roller coaster ride, really, because I was in Bombay, stuck in the cube of my apartment, and yeah, and then I just flew to the mountains here in Kodaikanal. So I've been here like the last 6 months, and I'm at least able to go out freely and sort of take walks outside. So yeah, it's really been a journey, a lot of learning, a lot of realization. That's for sure.
Okay, yeah. So what is art to you? What is art according to you? How do you define art as an artist?
Well, firstly, I just want to say that this has always been the most difficult question, because the answers are never same. Every single day you sort of define it in different ways, and it sort of evolve over time. At this point, if you ask me what art is, I would say art is a verb, not a noun. At least for me, and it delves in the doing, rather than like a finished outcome. So I think that's where I just like to sort of take art. Like, for example, if I say I did a project that was called Earth Walking. And so I would, choose a path like from home to school or home to like some particular place where I walk every day. And it was, and I used to start picking up things. And even when, sometimes insects would like crawl out, like snails, like earthworms, they would be on the pathway, or sometimes frogs. And any passerby who would be there with me, or any of my classmates, this happened when I was doing my masters, in California. They still remember me. Whenever they see a snail, whenever they see an earthworm, they take a picture and send it to me, right? They say, okay, Jinal, I'm thinking of you, and I'm not going to, sort of walk over them, because earth walking was all about mindful walking and walking along with all these other beings, right? So I think that's where for me art really lies. Like, art is a function, and it really lives with people. Yeah. So I think this is what art is for me.
Yeah, that defines definitely what art is. So could you talk about your journey being an artist, like how and where it started from?
Well, the journey has definitely been long now. Well, I started drawing and painting or expressing my feelings, my emotions, since I was a child. I think my parents have always encouraged me to, express creatively. And so I moved. So I grew up in Tamil Nadu, and I moved to Maharashtra after my high school. And in Maharashtra, we required this grade exam, right? But I never appeared for grade exams when I was in Tamil Nadu. So I wasn't even eligible for the fine arts schools here. Anyways, I took up commerce, and I even did my master's in commerce. But then on social media, when social media just began, I was just there. I was a little active, and then I came across somebody who was studying at Rachna Sunset, and I said, oh wow, how do they sort of select like students? Is there like an entrance exam? How does it work? And then he said, no, maybe you just show your portfolio, what you've done. And I'd already had participated in an painting exhibition before that. So I said, okay, let me take these photographs and maybe, show it to the principal of the school. And I did that and they were happy. And so I joined my fine art journey. And after that, I took a year break. I started working outside with different artists and, even participated in a residency in Bangladesh. And then I applied for my master's in all different schools. I chose CalArts. I think that one my dream come true. Yeah, it's a very organic space and very difficult to surprise. I think that's the thing that reminds me about CalArts is there is no one way to do things, right? And I think that laid a very strong foundation for me for the kind of work I'm doing right now. So I think my journey, I would say, CalArts made me a child again. to be curious and to be sort of very open, to go wild with my work. And most of all, to believe in myself. So.
Okay, yeah, that defines. So you have mentioned that through your intervention with the help of art, you create spaces for healing, and it definitely reflects in your installation, all the work that you have done. Like, is there any specific kind of experience that you'd like to share with us?
I would actually just go back to landscape works, that the elective that I taught at NID right now, which just got over yesterday, and I think I'm still living those moments. I mean, I'm not over that yet. I would say landscape works because, with the pandemic, yes, all of us are sort of stuck within our homes, right? And landscape works in a way was very therapeutic for most participants, where they could just sort of leave the computer and go out. Right. So most of the time we would probably be connected to each other on phone or WhatsApp or, meet like 2 hours a day or something like that to sort of discuss what happened. But most times were, just spending time with, trees and insects and, just sitting outside to draw, taking some photographs, making some videos. So I think in that way, it has been really therapeutic for most people who have been very stressed, working online. So that I think I would say that, yes, it did have, it did to some extent heal what we are going through these strange times. In terms of installations, I would like to just give an example of another work that I did while I was a artist in resident at the Reef in Los Angeles. So California actually has very strict rules about land maintenance and mowing of grass. So I've always been sort of, taken away by the sound of mowing and the smell of grass, etc. So at this time, when I was a resident over there, it was, I brought in like about eight big like sacks full of mowed grass. When I brought in, I had to bring it midnight because I think they wouldn't allow me, to bring it up to my studio. So this is how actually the building, it was a corporate building. And I had my studio, a huge studio in this corporate building. And what I did was, since I've done this work before, I was very confident that, okay, I'll just lay out the grass and let it to dry. And on the weekends, the vents are off, the AC is off. And so I let it to dry. It was like a carpet. Say like 15 feet by 15 feet grass carpet. And the smell was immense. So anyways, I went home and I was just, enjoying over the weekend. And Monday morning, I get a call from the corporate, like the building office, saying that you have to remove the work right away. And I'm like, why? And they said, the smell of grass is all over the building. So while I was critiquing this whole idea of like mowing and maintaining land, especially in a desert like Southern California, I think maintaining grass itself is a huge task. Where there's water scarcity. So while the entire building indirectly sort of participated in this work by just smelling grass, I think that made a huge difference, you know. Yes, of course, I removed the work, but then the experience remained with people, so.
It does. Okay, and since you're talking about NID, so how was the experience? How was the experience teaching and being a part of this journey?
Mm-hmm. I think NID has been great, and I'm very thankful to NID, especially for selecting landscape works, because had it been on a physical site, like say on campus, I'm not quite sure if we would have done these kinds of walks in different parts of India, right? Like somebody is in Kolkata, somebody is in Chandigarh, somebody is in Delhi, somebody is in Kerala. You know, and somebody is like in the central part of India. So it's really, you know, bringing the entire country together. And I think this is really, really special. And I think NID has made this happen.
Yeah, that's true. We are in different parts of the country. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how did you come up with the idea of the drawing circle, like the concept of sitting in a circle and working? It's a very unique kind of approach to, you know, work with.
Yeah, I mean, drawing circle also has had its own journey of how I conceptualize and, you know, came up with this idea. I think again, if I have to trace back its seed, the seed goes, I would say it goes back to my school CalArts, because we always sat in a circle, and I was always sort of curious of why is it always in a circle, because I was so used to sitting in grid, you know, just like Zoom right now, we're all in grids, but the difference is on Zoom, we all can see each other. Right. But if it's in a physical classroom setting, if everybody's sitting in a grid, we can't see each other, right? We can only see maybe the people who are sitting in the front, but again, they're back, not the front. Like we are not able to see their faces. So this whole, you know, idea of looking at circle and looking at how important it is to see each other while we are learning, while we are discussing, while we are talking, I think this again came from my workshop with children, right? Children, as well as my work with IIT Bombay, where we all sat in a circle and each person would actually ask a question. There was no one person who would, you know, sort of take the lead. Everybody would take a lead. Everybody would get a chance to share what they know. And you know, drawing collaboratively, I think that was the, you know, that was the second half of this. Yes, sitting in a circle, but drawing collaboratively. Again, it brings in a lot of understanding of space, right? How do you share space of something? You know, say for example, you're drawing and somebody is right beside you and wants to make something big. How do you negotiate this space? So I think this brings in, again, not only that drawing circle becomes very therapeutic in terms of its creativity, but I think it also makes us very mindful of each other's spaces. And I think most of all, when there's an outcome, say if we are all drawing together and we are, you know, sort of complete the work, just drawing part, say in like 4 hours, I think the sense of accomplishment is huge. The sense of shared and collective accomplishment is very special, you know. So, but anyways, so when I tried to sort of, you know, extend drawing circle out with, you know, to the public, the lockdown happened like about a year ago. And yes, I couldn't take it forward, but I think after 2 months, I said to myself, you know, I think this is not the time to waste. I think I should just push it online if it has to, because we form circles in different ways. It's not always sitting in like physical setting. I think we can also form a circle, just like I was talking, you know, in terms of this grid, in terms of landscape works where, you know, all of us were from different corners of the country, and yet these, you know, in a way we did form a circle, right? Connecting with each other. So I think now that the drawing circle is, you know, going online, and we are still running it. I would say we, because it's now become a collective, collective in the sense, you know, there are other participants who sort of enjoy that, you know, enjoy this ownership where we have brought it up together, we've carried it on together. And I'm really happy that it become, you know, it is shared.
Yeah. It's now a huge platform to people to come up and work.
Oh, I hope it's huge. It's not huge, but I really hope that it becomes, very friendly.
Yeah. Okay, so as an artist, one needs to go through a lot of experimentation and exploration. Often people fear of failure and art blocks. Like, how would you recommend them to deal with it when it comes to fear of failure and art blocks?
I would say give it time, right? So again, I think I would like to just go back to this example of drawing circle because, when I first started in July 2020, I was very excited. I was always excited about this idea of drawing together and sort of sitting in a circle. And I was so excited that when I did it, when I wanted to do it online first, and I invited everybody, I invited all my friends, not just from India, but even from, elsewhere in the world. And people joining at 1 a.m. and, there were like so many of them that I just couldn't handle. And I realized the first session was an utter disaster, right? It was a real disaster where after the session, I really called up so many of my friends who joined asking, what went wrong? And I think, just talking to people and trying to understand what is it that we are looking for? What is it that I'm looking for? What is it that you are looking for, right? So, I think failure is not a problem. I think the problem is when you stop doing things, right? You just have to continue doing things and learn from wherever you get stuck, learn from it, right? Find a way out, talk to people. I think, or even if it has to be taking time off and reflecting on what has happened, do that. I think that's the only way, right? There's no like a shortcut to this. Time really plays a huge role in our learning.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a sense of storytelling and vocal in all of your artworks and installation. So how do you derive it?
Well, I think we all learn from stories, right? So we all have memories. When we look at objects bring us memories. Even if it has to be as simple as, say, a pen, right? It really brings in memories of, if you just look at a pen, and if you have to, if I have to give you like 5 minutes of just think about this pen, I think it really brings in the entire history of what this pen, where it came from, where did you buy it, if somebody gave it to you, what did you write with it, when did you first start using this pen, etc., etc., etc. I think we all connect to our, world through stories. Even as children, like we always associate ourselves with objects through stories, right? And I think with my work, it has been very ethnographic, like autoethnographic, where I've taken examples of my own life actually to take it forward. Another side to this is when it is story, there's no one way of looking at it. There are multiple ways of looking at it. And, if I have to just tell you a story, you can probably look at one object. Whereas if I tell the same story to somebody else, they will probably have another kind of experience, right? So I think for that matter, storytelling in a way is, opens up to people for their own ways of reflecting on this work or on their own lives.
Okay, so since you're telling different people react or reflect to the same object differently, so regarding that, while looking at an artwork or any kind of work, when people reflect on it with a different kind of opinion, or maybe they respond to it differently, so do you think the origin of the artwork is lost or is it conveyed?
I think it grows, it expands. And I think that's one meaning for it. I don't think it ever loses, it expands, it grows, it transforms. And I just like to leave it there.
Okay, so you have worked with children a lot and you have interacted with them. So could you tell us how a child reacts initially to art in the beginning stages, like how it happens?
I think we all, irrespective of what we are taught, it is by nature that we draw, right? So when you take a child to a beach, they will end up drawing on the sand, right? They'll end up making something with the sand. If you take the child, say, just give something to the child that sheds color, I think the child will end up drawing. What's very special about children is that they observe, right? They observe everything. Now, if I have to give you one example of how beautifully children once surprised me, was that, so there were, I was in a class with about 8 to 10 children, and all these children were like 3 years to say about 5 years. And so there was a request from a parent saying, can you please teach them how to draw? I mean, that's normal. That's something I normally do not do, because then they start drawing like me, which I don't want. So I said, no problem. I'll help them how to draw. And so I said, I called for something from the fridge, and this Akka brought me an eggplant, right? She brought me an eggplant from the fridge, and I said, oh wow, this is a very interesting object that I think kids can draw. And I just kept it in the center of all these kids. Like I said, we all sit in a circle, right? So I kept it in the center, and all these kids started drawing, okay? And out of these 10 kids, there were 2 kids who raised their hands, and they were like, oh, so easy, I can draw in like 2 minutes. And they actually finished drawing in 2 minutes. But believe me, the rest of the 8 kids, this is probably a question to everybody who's listening to me. What do you think the 8 kids were doing? They were drawing for 45 minutes. What were they doing?
I guess
and they were, believe me, no, they were drawing. There was no pause. They were drawing.
Okay,
right?
That's curious.
So I was so surprised when seeing this, that all of these 8 children were actually drawing one dewdrop after another dewdrop on the eggplant. You know why? Because this eggplant was just out from the fridge, and these water droplets on it, and every child was drawing like thousands of water droplets. And I think 45 minutes wasn't enough for them. And I think that's the power of observation. If I have to draw an eggplant, I would just draw it in 2 minutes, because I'm taught how to draw. But if I just leave it, I think we would see a lot more, right? So I think that's how special children are. And I think we probably just need to let them grow, let them see, let them come and talk to us what they've seen. And I think that's more important, rather than we telling them what to see and we telling them what to do.
That's definitely a part. And how do you get inspired to do, how do you connect with environment? How do you get inspiration? As in a being, how do you do it? How do you portray in your artwork? How do you get inspired?
Well, normally when I'm happy, I don't get inspired. So I need to push myself to some challenges. I think challenges inspire me. I think that's the shortest answer that I can give you. If I have to get inspired, right? So oftentimes, my work is not necessarily where I'm the center. It's often I'm one of many things, right? Say, for example, yes, but the experiences are very important. Like, my experiences influence me a lot, right? Influence what I do a lot. Like when I grew up, in Madurai, yes, there was not even a proper road that would lead to my house. It was a mud road, and I would, really go to school walking through those mud roads, whether it's dry, whether it's raining, or however it is. And over years, right, over years, all this land got blocked by many houses, and now there's even a road. Of course, then I moved to Bombay. Only when I moved to Bombay did I realize the importance of all the snakes, all the insects, all the weeds, all the, stones on the ground. Like I did not step like on an everyday basis, or even like for months together, I wouldn't set my foot on the soil. And that's where it started affecting my psyche, my behavior, everything. Right. So that's how, when I went to California, that when I started like observing the landscape so closely. Right. So I think these experiences push me, or push, sort of me to do something for this land, for, what I think is important.
Okay. So it was lovely, hearing all those stories and experiences from you. Like, yeah, it was really amazing having you being a part of Baatein. So I'll end the session now, and yeah, take care. See you.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Preeti. It was lovely talking to you too.
Yeah, okay. See you. Bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.